I had a BC Rich pitch 10-string, and I had been playing an Ibanez Destroyer too, so I had a lot of different styles that I liked. I had a Les Paul, I had a SG, but for me, I switched over to a Flying V from the BC Rich pitch because the guitar, the Rich pitch just didn't play good, and looked beautiful. It was really amazing, but it didn't play good. Broke strings all the time, and I was just taking off in my career at the time, and I didn't have the time to tolerate this shit. So I remember the final straw. We were in a place called the Boathouse in Norfolk, Virginia. First song, and I had changed all my strings that day on that guitar. And first song broke 2 strings, and that's it. I'm done with you. And I got rid of the BC Rich and went to Jackson, and I told him, I said, I want one of your King V's, but I want 24 frets. No one's had a 24 fret Flying V prior to me. So I like getting way up there, second octave, getting around there, that area when you're soloing. And can you make one? So they had to reconfigure their neck to make the specs so that it was for 24 fret. And when I got the first one, it was great, but it wasn't my favorite one. I have my favorite one, the one I call my number one, which is still at my house. You know, there's some dipshit that's out there disputing that the one that I have that I call my number one isn't the number one. And it's like, there's no disputing it. No disputing you're a dipshit either. But, you know, it's not the first King V, because there were King Vs before mine even. So I had 2 of them that were identical, and I had them painted with Mercedes silver paint. So that's why I know that that's the guitar, and that, you know, anybody that says anything other than that's full of shit. Plus I have a little sticker that I put on the top of it, and I put a piece of Scotch tape over it. It says, you have spiritual powers, you should choose to practice them. And it's been on there so long that the tape turned yellow. So yeah, that's my baby. Somebody offered me a lot of money for it, and I just was like, you know, what's money? This is history. This is a guitar that did rest in peace, for God's sakes, man. You know, we're not going to be partying out this guitar.
But everybody got their favorite guitars, and they keep them at home because they're so precious for them.
Some do. Some have to get rid of them, unfortunately. This is a business that's overrun with just terrible human beings who will take advantage of musicians, of people who will try and take advantage of them financially. Or, you know, I know one guy who just died. He was a producer of a really big outfit, and he used to pay one of the artists of his troupe in cocaine to keep him strung out and working for him. And it's like, wow, you know, you're essentially slowly but surely killing this guy. I mean, the irony is the guy that was the pusher died. So makes me wonder what's going to happen to this other person, because he's been, you know, pretty much wrapped up with this guy forever. And now who's going to hire somebody that, you know, is a middle-aged man that plays for cocaine?
That's bad karma.
Yeah, a lot of us have come, we've walked away from the wreckage, and, you know, I'm not going to go crawl back into a car crash to go save anybody, but I will share what, you know, I did. You know, we've all had our ups and downs, and you've got to be smart enough to know when you're in the presence of a bad person. You know, when everyone around you is saying that guy's bad or that girl is bad, you know, sometimes you have to step back and go, these people know me, they love me, what do they see and I don't see?
Did the first generation of Flying V players in rock like Johnny Winter, Leslie West, Andy Powell, Wishbone Ash, And briefly, Jimi Hendrix had any impact on you back then and now?
No, it was Schenker.
It was Schenker, yeah.
Hmm. Much as I'm not really friends with Michael anymore. We were close at one time, and he's just kind of just disappeared. I don't know where he's at. After Elliot passed away, I'm not sure how he's doing. I'm sad. But, I'm going out with his brother, who's another great flying V wielding rock star. So, I love Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing. I absolutely hold him in the highest regard, but I cannot stand to play like that. It's a totally different style. Now, I believe he's a better guitar player than I am, so hats off to him, but whatever. I know a lot of people will say different. I listen to Van Halen a lot because I think that those first couple records were great. But, I think with any band, success is so dangerous, because you see what happened with that band with the infighting with Dave coming and going and Sammy, and then they wanted to get, I heard Joni Mitchell, and then they got that guy Gary Sharon, and then, all the things that they did to Michael Anthony and Wolfgang and stuff, and it's like, you think your band has problems? Every band has problems. Yeah. We all have problems, so don't think that you're any different, I think the key to it all is if you can keep it, out of the public, and we've tried really hard with the Megadeth camp to be really good to all of our players. People move on, but it's, it doesn't necessarily always happen. I was talking with David the other day. We were laughing at this guy that used to play with us named Jeff Young. It's very easy to laugh at this guy. He had called up Ellison and goes, "Hey, Junior, let's make the ex-Megadeth band." And Ellison, he goes, "Yeah, man, we can all go after Dave." And it's like, I'm listening to Dave and I'm waiting for the punchline, and he goes, "Look," I told him, I said, "Look, bro, you probably should know this. I'm back in Megadeth now, and by the way, don't call me anymore." Well, ESP was a guitar company that I really wished I hadn't gone to because they had a president there that was not very presidential. I had gone there, I fulfilled every obligation of my commitment, and I did it cheerfully. And I found out that this guy had done something very slimy. He had made a double neck guitar, and my contract didn't say that he could. And I said, "Hey, whatever your name is, I'll protect you, even though you're a douche." I said, "The contract says you can't make double necks." And he goes, "Well, it doesn't say that we can't either." And I went, "Okay, I'm done. I'm leaving." And I left.
That's bad.
Yeah.
That's not nice.
Yeah, stupid guy, because I sell thousands and thousands of guitars a year. Stupid man.
But now you are playing on Dean guitars.
Mm-hmm. And Dean's gone through a bunch of, metamorphoses of different natures. They started off when I went there. Dean Zielinski was still there, and Elliot was the owner, and Dean ran it. And then Dean left, and then Elliot ran it, and then Elliot got in a band with Michael, and then got in a band with Uli, and then kind of just left it to flounder. And then he got sick, and his son came in, Evan, he's a great kid, and he's trying to save stuff, and I'm trying to help, because I believe that the Dean guitars are great. I believe that they're manufactured great. I believe they sound great too. It's terrible when people get sick, and I knew something was wrong with Elliot when he got sick. There were a couple of emails he sent me that didn't make any sense, and I called him one day and I just said, "We need to talk." And he goes, "I've been meaning to tell you. I have a brain tumor, and probably not going to make it. And I talked to him, I hung up, and I cried, and made me really sad because I loved him. He was a great man. Well, color doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything at all. And stuff like fret inlay, binding, all that kind of stuff, it's aesthetic. It looks. You can't hear how it looks, right?
That makes sense.
So you want to get a guitar that plays great and sounds great. And then if you can accomplish those two things, then if it looks good, that's just icing on the cake. So what we try and do is make sure that the guitar is the same, whether it's an import or it's an American model. Everything's measured with a micrometer. The fret wire, when they go to buy the wood buyer, everything, the pickup slots, where all of the potentiometers line up, everything is exactly the same. And you should be able to go into a guitar center anywhere in the world and pick a guitar up that's a Dave Mustaine VMT, and it be exactly the way that my guitars play up on stage. And they have done, because I've had guitars that I've had to run to a guitar store and get another guitar and take it off the shelf and it rips. Now, for me, my personal preference is to have my Seymour Duncan pickups in it. I have two pickup lines. I have live wires, which are active pickups, and I have another line that are passive pickups that are called a Thrash Factor. And those are replicas of the pickups from my Jackson, the one I recorded Rust in Peace with. So anybody who wants a guitar that sounds like the Jackson Rust in Peace guitar, the new Seymour Duncan Thrash Factor pickups are the pickups that I used. Exactly. They took them apart, reversed engineered them, and then put them back together again, and that's how they came up with the Thrash Factor. You know, one of the things that made Motown so successful was there were really definitive lines in between each instrument. When the bass came up and the drum stopped and the bass started, there was a shelf there that you could definitely hear where the drum stopped and the bass started. And I think that a lot of times you'll get so much clutter in the frequency maps. A lot of these new young producers don't know fuck all about making records, and it's just a din. So when you have a guitar that operates really well within the frequency of a guitar and has really supple notes, great sustaining potential, and your electronics in there all have the best components that you can get, you're going to have pristine sound. Now, I myself like to hot rod guitars. Every once in a while we'll go back in and we'll change a couple of things just to make them play a little different, a little better. But for the most part, there's never really anything that needs to be done other than a little bit of some fret dressing and a little bit of some pickup adjusting.
That's nice, because then it works. What about the sound when you're producing a record and the sound when you play live?
It's very similar. We try and use, we use Fractal, and my amp modeling is predominantly all Marshall stuff. And what we've done is we've gone back through our catalog and listened to all of the rhythm sounds and determined that there was about 15 studio albums for rhythm sounds, but that out of all those rhythm sounds, there really was only about, 3 or 4 different rhythm sounds. There was a tight rhythm, a rhythm with a little bit of a gate on it, a rhythm with a little bit of sustain on it, and then a rhythm boost, you know, and as long as that's all crunchy and it's clear, it does its job, you don't need to have 15 different punches of that. So probably the biggest problem was when we did the first record, because we were using JCM 800s and Rockmans. Those Tom Schultz, he had those Rockmans. Click it over to chorus, and man, that's the beginning of The Conjuring. You know, totally is. I swear to God.
I think that many guitar players and musicians in general fights a lot with those sounds that they make in the studio and the sound that they make live, because it's so easy to fuck up the sound live.
Mm-hmm.
If you got bad speakers and bad monitors and you got bad sound engineer. But
Well, that's where you. I mean, honestly, you get what you pay for. If you have good gear, you're going to be able to get good sound out of it. If you're a professional, then you know a good carpenter never blames his tools. You know, you can't expect somebody to do their job hanging pictures using somebody's high heel upside down. You know.
you talked about your precious guitar, that's your baby. And the guitars in general, do you consider them as work tools or as instruments?
Weapons.
Because I asked Mark Schinkel the same question, and he said, well, it's not about the guitar, it's the man who plays the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the impression that you got some of the same philosophy.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say something like that.
Not in those words.
Well, it goes without saying, but you know, I think that if we're talking about Carpenter not blaming his tools, I think that humility is so much more palatable than arrogance. And granted, Michael's a great player. I don't know that I could get away with saying something like that. He probably can, but I wouldn't say something like that.
That's great.
Now, I would say it's not how big your pencil is, it's how you write your name, but that's me.